Hi, this is Lucy, your clarity coach, and this is Tuesday Talks at 3. Welcome to this new series in this new season. And the series in this season is called Empowered Family Boundaries Season. Empowered Family Boundaries Season. Oh, quite a mouthful right there. But what does it mean? It is a place where we are appreciating the creation of a loving and structured home environment, not only for the individual, but for the entire unit as a family. And to be able to bring this to you, I have got 4 episodes in this particular series, which is Empowered Family Boundaries. And the first one is harmony. That's what we're going to be talking about today, harmony. You know what, when you say harmony, what it means, everything is working together. It sounds good to the ear. There's work that was done so that things make sense, and that is what harmony is. That's the first one we're going to be looking at. We then hop on to mental wellness. So how is mental wellness nurtured as a result of boundaries? We'll be looking at that in our second episode. Our third episode will be about priorities. So what priorities do we need to put or align or look out for as a family when it comes to matters boundaries? Remember, we are looking for that environment that supports the individual in the family unit, and we're looking for those boundaries that support and nurture the family unit, the well-being. So those priorities are key. Hello, Nancy. Lovely to see you there. Karibu sana. I see that we've also got Mr. Organic 64. Welcome to Tuesday Talks at 3. And my name is Clarity Coach Lucy. Today, we are starting the new series, which is Empowered Family Boundaries. Just being able to understand the benefits of that. Last but not least, we will finish this season, and it will be the last, it will be the last episode of this year on the 26th of November. And we're going to be holding that at 7 o'clock in the evening. So put it in your diary. Tuesday Talks at 3 on the 26th of November will be at 7 o'clock in the evening. And I will be having a guest who's a fellow coach and a psychiatrist and a counselor. And we'll be talking with her on matters connection and how these empowering family boundaries help us as families to stay connected. You know, that invisible weaving, just for it to stay connected. Just like the way you have your fascia in your body, everything is connected, but you don't really see it, but it's there. Knowing that you have that foundation, that's what we're going to be talking about. So put it in your diary and make a date to be here on Tuesday Talks at 3 as we finish the year strong. We will then take a break and be back in January, in the second week of January. So today's question, as we look at harmony, we always have a question for you. So let's pay attention to this question. And as we ask it, let us make it a personal experience. And the question is, how have boundaries fostered healthy relationships in your family? How have boundaries fostered healthy relationships in your family? So as you're thinking about that answer, come take a walk with me as we unpack the positive impact that boundaries have on our families. So to be able to do that, I love definitions. So what is a healthy boundary? When we say boundaries, what do we mean? And when we say healthy, what do we mean? Now, it differs from one family to the other. But there are 3 things that remain constant. How you show up is different, but these 3 things, they are constant. And once you're able to understand what that looks like in a family setting, then you can create your own boundaries that you can subscribe to. So healthy boundaries are number 1, they are clear. It is important for a boundary to be clear, because this way we are able to know what are my roles and responsibilities. I know growing up, as we grew up, my mom had all these roles and responsibilities. So everybody knew what they were supposed to be doing. And in case you needed some clarity, you went to her, the person who set the boundaries, to seek the clarity. Now, if she wasn't around, you asked your sibling. And at times your sibling knew more than you about your particular roles, of course, for many different reasons, as children are. They're looking out for each other to see who's made a mistake, to see who we can laugh at. Growing up as siblings is fun because, like we say, like the British say, you take the mickey out on them. In other words, you push them, but it's all coming from a place of love. So when it is clear and I know what my responsibilities are, it is so much easier for me to show up. It is so much easier for me to respond. I want you to take a moment and just remember, and if you cannot, then look at this person in your home or in your influence, your circle of influence. Remember the time when you were a teenager. Everything that was said to you, your main mandate in this life was to fight back. Your main mandate in this life was to reject. Your main mandate in this life was to rebel. Because at that stage in your life, this is what the hormones are doing. And this is you trying to figure out who you are and the space that you occupy in this life. So if you did not have clear boundaries, then you really went off the hook. So clear boundaries allowed you to understand, oh, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I know what I'm rebelling against. It's that clear, you know. But if you don't know what you're rebelling against, then you're not really rebelling against anything. You're just living your life one day to the other without purpose. So boundaries are clear. That's number one. It's a non-negotiable. The second one is boundaries are consistent. These goals don't keep on moving. Remember again, as you were growing up, and just remember what was happening. Once the adult, the parent, the guardian, the house help in your house said something, that is what it was meant to be. It didn't change. Fun fact, my children are grown up now, they're adults, but I still have a standing joke with them. At times I sit in the house for hours on end working and preparing for the trainings and mentorships and the coachings that I do. And when they come through the door, I just take out on them a personal joke, and it is an inside one, shall I say that way. And I ask them, what time is it now? Because when they were growing up and now they got the right to be going out, there was a time, there was a curfew that they were meant to be back by. And it did not matter what day it was or where it was that they went. I was consistently asking them, what time is it? Where are you? What are you supposed to be doing at this time? So that was just a fun fact. I don't know whether you experience the same thing with your guardians, your parents, or your house helps. But this is what my mother did. And therefore, because I later on came to see the value of that in setting the boundaries, and not only having them clear, but being consistent about these boundaries, I then took it as a best practice in my home. And we smile at one another and we remember things. Those are memories that were formed. So that was the second one. So it has to be clear, it has to be consistent. And the third one, it has to be communicated with kindness. I want you to imagine for a moment when you think of someone who's executing orders. It can come off really negatively on you. And in fact, if anything, you may start putting up walls, blocking, not receiving. Well, that's what a teenager is going through. When there's no kindness in the communication of these boundaries, they want to fight back. They want to push back. They want to ignore and do their own things. It is said that you can kill somebody with kindness. And this kindness comes in the communicating kindly, compassionately, understanding where this person is coming from. If you've got more than one child, you will realize that communication styles are different for your children. Parents seem to have this naturally, unless on a day when they're feeling overwhelmed and tired, exhausted, and then they just don't have time to differentiate. And then they take out all these rules and regulations in one way to everybody. One size fits all, and that's where the problem then begins to happen. So if you are more than one in your family, you're not an only child, you're more, then you'll realize that the adults spoke to you differently than they did to somebody else. Perhaps they were communicating with kindness. So healthy boundaries, once we are defining them for our homes, we then know that 3 things are non-negotiables. Maybe you've got other things that you think are non-negotiables. Please just drop them here. We would like to just sample them and see how different it is from one family to another. Remember the time when you were a teenager and the things that were going on, or maybe when you were even younger. And even now, as you're listening to this, maybe there are no children in your immediate circle. But then you're walking down memory lane with me and remembering that you had a safe space, you had a personal space, and there was no respect in that personal space. Or you had certain things like you thinking about these responsibilities you're meant to be doing, and then there was no line drawn as to where does yours stop and where does the next one start. I'll give you an example: washing dishes. So where does it start and where does it stop? Just to give you some context, for us to be actually in that sink washing dishes means that there were dishes that were taken from the dining table, and then they were taken to that side of the kitchen and they were cleaned out, and maybe they were sleuthed with water. For those of us who do not have washing machines, maybe they were sleuthed with water, soaked and put on the side. You see, washing dishes is not necessarily just the water running and the soap. It is a whole process. So once we have somebody washing, then who's rinsing and who's drying and who's putting them away? So where does your responsibility start, stop, and the other one continue? Yes, I know teenagers like to see that. I see Eunice. I love this. Eunice, you're sharing with us that no phones were allowed during meal times. Oh yes, that is a popular one. And as we go on to the next one, where we're going to be looking at the benefits of boundaries, we will be breaking that one down, Eunice. But thank you so much for sharing. No phones were allowed during meal times. Now, this is for the younger generation. Now, during my time, there were no phones. The phone was one, and it was in a corner in the house or in the living room. And therefore, when it rang, everybody was rushing to go and answer that phone. But chances are it never rang over meal hours. I don't know how that worked out, but it just never did. So meal times were that time for our parents to speak with us. Some children dreaded meal times because that is the time now the Riot Act was being read. But other children enjoyed meal times. We enjoyed meal times in my home because my father was intentional about making it fun and understanding where you're coming from. How was your day? What is it that you liked, what you did not like? What would you like to share with us? It was great fun having dinner with Dad. And then things changed drastically. And suddenly we were not eating around the dining table. We were eating, sitting on the couches. It was not the same anymore because now we were not all facing the same place and sharing from the same bowls. It changed. So thank you so much, Eunice. No phones were allowed during meal times. So there, it shows up differently all the time. So if we are to be respecting privacy in shared spaces, because we share rooms or we share living rooms or we share the dining table, and setting ourselves up for that suggests that there has to be some boundaries. What happens at the table? Eunice says no phones were allowed. If we're sitting in the living room and we're all sitting on the couches, what happens there? Perhaps it's no feet up on the coffee table. Perhaps it is no shouting because we can all hear each other, we're within proximity. Perhaps it is one person speaks at a different time. Not that we're all speaking at the same time, because communication needs to happen. We all want to be seen and heard. What is it for you? In today's world, there's something called screen time. So how then do we communicate with kindness when it comes to screen time? Those are things that we have to look at from a point of example, figuring out what that looks like. So maybe as adults, we need to set reasonable limits on screen time. Again, there's another word that needs definition. So in your family, what does reasonable mean? Maybe you could just drop it here in the chat so that we can hear what reasonable screen time means in your family. And here we are helping one another. We are strengthening one another. What I'm trying to say is that clear communication is key. Therefore, this clear communication means, yes, it is clear, we all understand, it is consistent, we can see it happening all the time. And we are told that monkey see, monkey do. So if you're able to see your parents doing the same thing, so they have no phones at the table, they're respecting the screen time, no legs up somewhere, no shouting because we are within close proximity, it becomes second nature for you to do the same thing. Because monkey see, monkey do. Now these are the kind of processes, or shall I say the scope, when it comes to figuring out how to continue doing something consistently. When we set these boundaries, remember, we are targeting two. We're targeting the individual within the family unit, and we are targeting the family unit. Because then one cannot exist without the other. But again, they're different identities. And it is key for you to understand what comes when. So today's question is very simple. How have boundaries fostered healthy relationships in your family? Share with us here your feedback. Moving on to benefits of boundaries, and back to you, Eunice, where no phones were allowed during meal times. Did you know why? And how was this communicated to you? In the world of sales and marketing, and if you've been following me, you'll know that that is my background in education, sales and marketing. In sales and marketing, you don't necessarily buy the tangible product. You buy the benefit of the tangible product. What does this product do for you? And I am not favoring, neither have I been paid to speak about them, but the example I will give is Safaricom. Safaricom has got very many products. But if you look at how they promote these products, they don't actually talk about the features of the product, so much so as they speak about what those features will do for you. It looks at the benefits. So whether it's convenience, whether it is fast, whether it is time saving, name it, those are the words that they use. So when we are told no phones were allowed during meal times, what words were used to help you understand the benefits? And Eunice, you're back. It says, it allowed us to have family time. I didn't understand it then though. Well, look at that. Look at that. It was said to you, but you just didn't get it yet. But it was said to you. So that was an adult who was able to communicate to you, not the feature. That means not the rules and regulations, but more of the benefits. So sit back for a moment, and I invite you to think about the things that you are asking the younger generation to do. Think about them. And my question to you is, how then do you contribute, or how then do you communicate, or how do you explain these boundaries? In fact, the better question is, how do boundaries then contribute to a healthy family dynamic? If we take Eunice's answer, it's about allowing family time. And when you have family time speaking to one another, and this is a unit, I mean, they share the same roof, they share the same name, and they go out of there, they share the same values, their behaviors are seen out there. And certain behaviors that are seen are the ones that we are saying are the benefits to the individual. So just think about it and share with me what comes to your mind. You see, these boundaries, they create a foundation of safety. You are able to know that the identity of your home, this is how we do certain things. You know, if you stepped out of your home now and you go into another home, you will see that things are most probably done in a different way. And the one that I like to give an example about is sleeping time for young children. And you go there, maybe you've taken your child there for a sleepover, and then you hear that they slept at a certain time and your child is coming home and so excited. You know, when we go to so-and-so's house, they sleep at this hour, a later hour than it is that they're sleeping. And that becomes a point of argument at home. Here you are selling them the benefits of the boundaries. Why does it happen this way in your house? You cannot speak for the other house. You can only speak for your house. You can only speak for your house. Well, it helps you from a point of safety. It helps you from a point of respect. And these behaviors then are seen as being exhibited when these children leave the home. Because they leave the home with already boundaries that have been clear, that have been consistent, and have been communicated with kindness to them, that they go outside there and they begin to convert other people. And as they convert them, you know, it's all that incremental action on your part, the small part that you're playing so that you can see the change that you desire in this world is actually a compounding action. So I'm going to say it again. It brings safety and it brings respect. And these two are key values for your family. Key values. So each member will then understand their limits. Where are we talking about safety? Think about it. If you really push yourself beyond your limits continuously, and it is not, I'm not talking about in a positive way, in a negative way, it's going to have a huge impact on your life. And this impact is going to be one that does not help you to move forward. Today we hear people are depressed. And one of the things that I have experienced here across the table from my clients who are experiencing these kind of things like depression, anxiety, overwhelm, is because these are things that were not shown to them that they are a natural progression of life. In their families, there was no safety net. They were only told the good things that will happen in life. They were not prepared for failure. They were not prepared for a point where you were not the best person in the room. They were not prepared for that. So the minute they started facing the real life, the real hustle, or they got out there and people spoke differently, acted differently, were favored more than them, they began to break down. This is the safety I'm talking about. So when you're selling a boundary to your child, talk about the safety benefits that come with it. It's mental safety, it's physical safety, it's spiritual safety. I hope I am speaking to somebody out there so that you can understand how you can sell the benefits and not so much the rules and the regulations. Now, this particular structure, if done well, it obviously cannot be done 100%, but it is in the striving of keeping it going with clear consistency and kindness. You end up reducing conflicts. Where there's more than one person, there will always be conflicts. Even in those families that you think do not argue, do not have conflicts, the conflicts are there. It is just reduced, and now we know how to speak with one another. We have respect, was the next value I talked about. We appreciate what somebody brings to the table. We allow them to speak. Remember I talked about being in the living room and one person speaks at a time? We are listening to you. We are hearing where you're coming from, and we are seeking to understand. This is respect. Guess what? When this individual leaves this family unit and goes outside that door, this has become such second nature to them that they operate in that way. That is their factory setting. They may never understand why it is their factory setting until they are asked. And they say, growing up, we were told that there were no phones during meal times. And now I understand what it was. It was allowing family time. So I'm going to use that best practice that when we are here hanging out with friends, that we are speaking to one another as opposed to speaking to those people who are not in the room with us. This person has just taken what they experienced at home and they have come and applied it in a real life scenario. And already you will find people will begin to appreciate them more. And only because you started it at home and now they've gone out and done it. But back home, when we do this and it reduces the conflicts, by it reducing those conflicts, it actually enhances trust. That it happens over time, but the day that it's broken, it's the hardest thing to just bring back. Trust is one of those balls in the air that are glass balls. When a glass ball drops, to try and put it, you see that by what we're talking about, my internet connectivity there dropped, my apologies, and we were just talking about how we have to enhance the trust. And you will find that this individual goes out there and does exactly what they did at home, because back home they were able to live harmoniously. So when you're trying to put together the trust that has been broken, whoa, that's like starting from scratch. Yes, it gives you an opportunity to see things differently. But the next time that I have been put together, just like Humpty Dumpty, the next time that I have been put together, when I'm in your presence and something happens, I'm very quick to protect myself. Because there's been an instance where trust was broken. So why are we getting there? Let's not get to the point where we're breaking trust. Let's get to the point where we are selling the benefits of boundaries so that we can enhance trust in our family settings, so that we can have people, individuals from that home, going out into the community with that mindset of enhancing trust. And I hope I'm speaking to you, because healthy boundaries foster respect. And this is by creating that safe space where the family members can express their needs freely. They will be heard. They know that what is discussed in that living room stays in that living room. We are building up that safety, which is your mental wellness. Your stories, your experiences are not going to be shared outside these four walls so that then the whole world knows the things that you're struggling with. You see, children in particular benefit from these life skills, and the two that I'm talking about are safety and respect, because they understand that it is important to show up in this way. They begin to respect themselves. They then respect their family members or the family unit. And when they go out, it's very natural for them to respect. But because they were sold the benefits of boundaries. So today's question is still being answered. I hope you are understanding where we are coming from. The question is, how have boundaries fostered healthy relationships in your family? Just share with us as we finish off with enforcing, because we have now defined, we have seen what benefits can do for us. We are now enforcing boundaries. So setting and enforcing boundaries respectfully is something that we can do while maintaining compassion. Remember, I talked about communicating with kindness, I beg your pardon. So how can parents, how can guardians, how can adults enforce boundaries while maintaining respect and compassion? It's the same way. It's explaining those benefits, the ones we've just gone through. So how about next time, when you are asked by a member of the youth fraternity, a member of your home who are teenagers, when they ask you that question over and over again because they are challenged by what it means, explain to them calmly what those boundaries are. Allow them to be part of the process. Use positive reinforcement to allow them to see the benefits of the boundaries. Listen to your children when they give you the feedback. When this happens, this is how it makes me feel. Wait until around the dining table and ask, how did that make you feel? Because as they give the feedback, somebody else is giving feedback, and this helps you to make decisions on what is going to help your family to come together as a unit. It enforces these boundaries without causing resentment, without causing pushback, without causing stress, like I talked about, the depression. And today we know depression ends up with suicide, and we don't want that. So consistency and compassion at the same time, or kindness. We are suggesting that you're putting yourself into somebody else's shoes, and you'll begin to realize the reverse now is happening. Whereas as you speak to your children and you sell them the benefits and you set them up and you enforce them, you will find that now your children become your helpers in enforcing these boundaries. It enforces them, and it helps us all to build and enforce this trust, enhance this trust in families, and just maintain that harmony. That's what we're talking about today. In conclusion, boundaries within a family can be seen in the behaviors that are exhibited outside the four walls. Your children have left the nest, and people come back and say, wow, Lucy, your children are so well behaved. Wow, Lucy, your children feel very secure, they are confident. Wow, Lucy, your children have a very high level of trust and respect for others. They are a pleasure to be around. Guess what? It was the boundaries that you set up in your home that were clear, that were concise, that were communicated with love, with kindness, and with compassion. So knowing their roles, if they don't have roles today, figure out what kind of roles are age appropriate and let them take the responsibility from today. Today is a good day to start. That personal space that they have, whether it is in their room, whether it's at the dining table, whether it's in the kitchen, whether it's in the car, there's something called the private space, the personal space. What is it? What does it look like? And how should we act within the personal space? And how do we respect somebody's personal space? So this gives us a more peaceful and supportive home environment. And we all want that. We all want that. So as a parent, as a guardian, think about setting these boundaries in a thoughtful way. and uphold them consistently. Let your children grow in a healthy environment. Well, the takeaways are here. I never leave you without takeaways. Tips on boundaries, clear communication. That we've already covered. Consistency and compassion. That is a must, especially the consistency. But yes, the compassion, so that's kindness. So I don't feel like this rule is being pushed down my throat. And then allowing that these healthy boundaries foster respect and that they foster trust is very key. Well, we've come to the end of our session. The recording of this episode will be available on our YouTube channel. Wait for it. Wait for it. The YouTube channel has been rebranded and is called Voiced by Lucy. Voiced by Lucy. Fun fact, I am training to be a voiceover actor, and these are my mediums of using my voice. So yes, Voiced by Lucy is the name of my YouTube channel. Go on there. Hop on there and leave me a comment. Maybe you like the new picture I've put. Maybe you like what I've posted. And while you're there, check out my YouTube shorts and just comment there, because now I've got somebody who's helping me to do my videos. So there's great content going out there. Let's hear back from you. Our next episode is nurturing mental wellness as a benefit of having boundaries. Nurturing mental wellness. You want to be there. Do not forget, it's next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Join me here. We'll be talking about that. In the meantime, our social media platforms will continue to inspire you and educate you. Now, did you catch my episode 3 of, or rather my episode 2 of season 2 of the Skillful She podcast? If you didn't, here's a little snippet. My guest is Coach Catherine, a renowned mom entrepreneur, and we are talking about aligning values. And today we've talked about 2 values. There's the security or the safety, and then there's respect. We've talked about that. So you want to go onto Spotify and look for Skillful She by Lucy Macridis, and click there and you'll see all the episodes that I have done since the beginning of this year. Have a listen, share back with me here on the chat, and let's hear what your feedback is. What would you like to hear in 2025 from me? Now, Black November is with us, guys. Black November is with us, and I'm offering 40% off 3 key trainings for 2025. Follow me here on Instagram and get more information. You don't want to be left out of this 40%. Get your discount now, and let us help build each other. Until then, be kind to yourselves. Bye-bye now.